Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Forbidden Dinner Table, the podcast where we talk about all the things that you are not supposed to talk about at the dinner table. I am Alex.
And I am Zach.
And we have another good episode in store for you today. We're going to do something a little bit different and try and wrap it up a little bit shorter than usual. So we just want to maybe get some feedback on if people like the quick in and out discussion or the longer discussion. But having said that, we're going to start things off with a couple callbacks. So last week we talked about creative thought leaders, and I knew this would happen, but as soon as we stopped recording, I thought of two more. So I wanted to just start off by giving those people some credit. Number one, Zach, I immediately texted you this name, but Dr. Drew is a big one for me. That guy literally got me through the pandemic.
It's surprising because I feel like out of all, other than the music producer or kind of one who had music tricks that you knew that I wasn't going to know, yeah. Dr. Drew is one that I know zero on.
Yeah. So he's most famous for like Loveline and very like familial opinions and all of this type of stuff. But he is a medical doctor. And so through COVID, I started listening to him mostly to drown out all the media frenzy, all the panic porn, as he called it, and just get like, here's what the medical community is looking at. And it was a very refreshing take. I literally used to like look forward and count down to when his videos would come out because it calmed me. Because it was like, yeah, we're looking at that. The media is blowing this side effect up out of proportion. He goes, I've treated 50 patients, haven't seen it. Don't worry about that. And it was very calming and very like, oh, okay. He was like the lighthouse in the storm for me.
That's good.
So, yeah, in terms of like medicine, which he's kind of, again, like a pop doctor, I guess, in a way of like, he makes it fun and he's not afraid to talk about some weird stuff. He's on with Your Mom's House all the time and all that kind of stuff. So things can get sideways, but he is grounded in medicine and all that. So I just wanted to put that name out there because he did literally, as a thought leader, I would say, get me through the pandemic. Number two, I think this came up right afterwards, but I did want to give some credit to Taika Waititi.
Oh yes, we did say that right after we stopped recording.
Yeah, so he's been big as well in terms of like creativity, directing, writing, comedy, dark comedy. He can take a movie like Thor and make it fun and all that kind of stuff and then turn around and do Jojo Rabbit, which is an incredible movie but like really dark themes and still make it kind of lighthearted and a comedy and like from a child's perspective. And it's just the juxtaposition and all the different things he can do is pretty incredible. So
he's an actor and Free Guy as well, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Is he involved with directing that, or is he just an actor?
No, I think he was just an actor. He directs and acts in What We Do in the Shadows.
Gotcha.
Which was a movie and then a show. I've seen the movie. That's also some like really different humor. It's kind of dark and dry, but like, I don't know. It's decent. It's worth watching. I haven't seen the show, but I've heard good things. And so, yeah, he like stars and writes all of that stuff. So
definitely somebody who's done something different, made a name for himself. It's cool to see his art, I guess.
He also has a TED Talk.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which he talks about as a director, he doesn't see it as his job to direct a movie per se. It's his job to tell a story. And so he just kind of looks at it through a different lens and goes, I've been given a story and I need to tell it. And so the job is a little bit different than just like making a movie. It's a little more rounded, I think.
That reminds me of, now we're just going to start playing tennis back and forth. I've got another NWR, Nicholas Winding Refn, the Dutch filmmaker, who to me has the most interesting back-to-back-to-back film progression. He did one of my favorite movies of all time, one of my least favorite movies of all time, and then the biggest what the heck movie I think I've ever seen. So he did Drive, which I know is a bit polarizing, but I think is phenomenal. Fun fact about that one, they shot that in chronological order because they, like, as things were going, they decided to change things in the script because of how shooting in chronological. Normally, you don't do that.
That's
you
interesting.
shoot what
No, it's
makes
too expensive.
sense financially. But my understanding is they shot Drive in chronological order and sort of changed things as it was going, and that partially is why. Like the movie just has an amazing tone and presence, and I could talk about
Soundtrack's a big part of that one too.
Soundtrack is incredible. Just aesthetic. The movie's got an amazing aesthetic.
Yeah, that's a good word. Yep.
So NWR did Drive, which was incredible with Ryan Gosling. Then he did Only God Forgives with Ryan Gosling, which I have seen like senior film college projects that are better than that movie. Like that, it just I can't believe. If I was a studio and I paid millions of dollars for that movie and I saw the final cut, I'd go, great first draft, change these 100 things and come back to me.
Make it again.
So, Only God Forgives was incredibly awful. One of the only movies I've ever seriously considered turning off, but I didn't. I finished it. And then his third film, Neon Demon, is like one of the greatest, what the hell did I just watch?
I've heard of that one, but I have not
It
seen it.
is a movie that lives rent free in my mind of like just I think it's incredible artistic path that sort of brings that movie to fruition. So he's a thought leader of mine.
Okay, interesting. We also had a listener give us a thought leader of theirs, which is another director, and I thought this was a good one, so I wanted to bring it up. But M. Night Shyamalan. And I like it because if you want to live in the thriller, twist and turn movie, there pretty much is no other name.
Yeah.
So,
Got some.
he certainly cemented himself in that corner of the movie industry. And if you want to look at a movie like that, pretty much every example is his. So I thought that was a really good one.
Sixth Sense is like the cornerstone.
The others?
I didn't know he did the others. That's good.
I'm pretty
He
sure.
did Signs.
Also great.
Oh, great. Those are really the only. Those three are the three that I can say that I've seen of his that I know very well.
Oh, he didn't do the others.
Okay.
That's my bad. I just assumed because it felt like his
Because
type
it's got
of
a
movie.
good twist. Okay, so I've Signs and Sixth Sense. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did like Unbreakable and Glass. And
yeah, which are a little different, but still good. And then
The Village and Lift, or like
what's
Elevator?
the recent one too with the grandparents? The Visit
The Visit, and then also there was the one where like the people are aging incredibly fast
on the beach.
island.
I think that's the most recent one. Yeah.
Yeah. The
And
only
all-
complaint I would have is like when you're going to see an M. Night Shyamalan movie, you know there's going to be a twist, so you're like
That's true.
meditating that.
I'll say this though: there's times where I know and I'm looking for it, and I'm still surprised.
That's true.
I
will never forget.
The Village is not a great movie, but I definitely didn't see the twist coming.
Not an M. Night Shyamalan, but it's a Christopher Nolan. I remember watching The Prestige with our dad, and like halfway through it, he's like, I see how this is going. I see the writing on the wall. And then it ended, I turned to him and I was like, is that? And he goes, nope, not at all.
Yeah, right.
So it was a
Which
great
is the
moment.
makings of a good movie.
Yeah. You think you got it all figured out. Which, yeah.
All right. Well, that's all I wanted to bring up based on the last episode. So really cool that I thought that that a listener shared one of their thought leaders as well in terms of movies and things that they look for. So just wanted to call that out. But from here, I think I'm just going to kick it over to you because you've got a list of topics and things you wanted to discuss. So where do you want to start?
Yeah, in the interest of doing kind of like a shorter episode or seeing how it was if we bring the timeline in on one of our episodes and talk about something, I wanted to just bring sort of one topic and a little open-ended and explore it out of some things that we've talked about in the past, and that is just the relationship, your own relationship with money, your own relationship with time, and this new variable that I'm creating called like money time. Like, forget space time. We talk about space time. Space time. Thinking about money time. And what makes me think about this is two things. I want to share something that Jordan Peterson talked about in one of his speeches. But before I go there, we were talking, I believe it was on one of our podcasts on the air with one of our guests, where you said something along the lines of like, you don't think about things in terms of like how much money you're potentially making, like at the stock market. You're thinking about how much time you're almost getting with retirement at the stock market. So talk me through a little bit of like, I think that's a really cool quote and a really different way to think about it. Talk me through your experience with that, or your relationship to saving for your retirement, and like how you're almost saving time.
Yeah, so this was something I came up with. I have a secondary piece that was something I plagiarized, but we'll get to that in a second. In terms of retirement, I know and always think about the more money I can save now, the more time I don't have to work later. So anytime I have some extra money, that's where I want to put it, because I'm almost buying my own time later, assuming, that the market grows and everything's good and all of that. And so that to me is more valuable than a lot of other stuff that I could just buy with maybe some extra money laying around. So I try to always keep that in mind, because I think it's easy to lose sight of very, very long-term goals. So I try to think about it that way to keep pressing on, I guess, and keep going. Yeah, it may not feel like a lot now, but you just bought yourself, a year early of retirement or something like that. The flip side, and this piece I stole from Whitney Cummings, who thinks about buying stuff so much more present-minded in terms of like hours worked. So, for example, if you make $20 an hour and you want to go out to dinner and have a $20 meal, like, is that meal worth an hour of work? And it might be. But let's say you want to buy a $100 sweatshirt or something like that. Is that sweatshirt worth 5 hours of work? And if you think about it that way, sometimes you go, no, maybe not. Or maybe it is. I don't know. Everybody's different. But that's another way to kind of think of things, but more present-minded.
Yeah, I used to think a lot more in that way when I made like minimum wage or like smaller amount that you could like easily mathematic. Now I'm in a privileged spot where I make a decent amount per hour, and it is like a bigger math problem, which is a great problem to have. But what I used to do too, and now as I'm just thinking about this out loud, I realize that it's sort of been screwed up, is I used to think about things in terms of entertainment in an hours per dollar ratio of like, okay, if a ticket to the movies was $7 and you got 2 hours of entertainment, but going ice skating is $10 for 30 minutes, right? This idea, I used to like have this benchmark of a movie was like $7 gets you 2 hours of good entertainment.
That's a good benchmark, actually. I think about this as well.
What I was saying, I haven't thought about that in a while though. Of like now streaming has almost screwed that up. Of like you're paying $7 not for the movie, but almost like the movie experience of like. Because there's something different about watching a movie at home versus watching a movie in theaters. I think the biggest thing is how often do you check your phone in a theater versus how often do you check your phone while you're sitting at home streaming a movie.
That's a good point. Which in a theater is zero.
Exactly that. I mean, you've also got the huge screen, the huge sound, and there's an experience. To it. But I think it's the phone, the relationship to your phone, that actually makes one of the biggest differences.
I use this thought process a lot with video games, because up front it can sometimes feel like $60 or $70 for that video game is kind of a lot. But then I go, but if I sink 40 hours into it, it's actually a pretty good like bang for my buck if you compare it to movies, like you said. Of course, some, turn out to be duds, and others I might sink 100 hours into it. And I go, that was like the best video game, that was the best entertainment purchase I ever bought.
Yeah, I pretty much only buy video games now for social like elements. I
sure.
Almost 100% of the video, I'd say 95% of the video games I play are with somebody, whether it be virtually or in the same room. But like, it's all co-op for me.
But that's good too.
That to me, like, I know I'm also spending money towards, it's almost like building relationship or something like that. It's the same thing I think about with fantasy football, right? I pay about $20 for every league that I'm in. I don't pay to play fantasy football. I play to be a part of the social experience that is playing fantasy football.
Yeah. There's value in that. And fantasy football can also be entertaining and make the games more fun to watch or whatever.
It does.
That's a pretty good example too of like, you can get a lot of bang for your buck there if you're in a $20 league. If you're in like a $1,000 league or something, it's different, but then you're just gambling. But yeah, no, which I've never spent like over 50, but I've always
Listen, I
felt
don't-
pretty good about it.
I'm sure there are people in $1,000 leagues. The most I've ever heard somebody paying for a league is $100 in dues.
Yeah, I think I've only done 50.
I've never been in a $100 league. If somebody asked me to be in a $100 league, I'd be like, no way. I'm way too forgetful to set my lineup to put $100.
I used to care a lot more and like pay attention every week and all that. And now, like you said, I pretty much just do it for the social aspect. I don't really care that much. But yeah, those are the two sides, at least for me, is the long-term thing is more money away. The more money I put away now, the more time I have later, which is big. And then I really only think about this with bigger purchases presently. Like right now, I'm in the market for a grill. So how many hours worth of work is it worth to get this particular grill over that particular grill? And I kind of think about it like that.
This makes me think of the Daniel Tosh. I think about this line weirdly a lot of like spending the money on a mattress. He's like, spend the money.
Yeah.
It's one third of your life. Like,
Yeah. I am going to use that because the mattress I have right now, it was like the first one I ever personally bought. So I don't want to say I got a cheap one, but I kind of skimped a little bit. The next one I get, I plan to pay a lot and get a really nice one for that exact reason. It's one of the only things you use every day.
yeah.
And so all of those things that you use every day, yeah, that's probably where you should put a little extra money because you're going to get so much use and value out of it.
And it's something that you use every day that you like are cool or you want to use every day. I think about like I just ordered a new phone and like I could have spent a lot more, but also like
Sure.
I don't want to spend a ton of my time on my phone, right? So it's like this
Yeah,
thing
that's fair.
versus a bed. You're like, I love getting 8 hours of sleep every day.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
you're cool with that. You want to spend more time there.
that's a good point. Yeah.
So it's this tying back to the Jordan Peterson
yeah.
Peterson commentary. You mentioning about how you think about things in terms this relationship between time and money. When I was listening to a Jordan Peterson speech, he said something where I was like, "Whoa, this is right up Alex's sort of line of thinking." And I'm going to kind of paraphrase some of the pieces here, but what Jordan Peterson was talking about was like, especially when you're younger and you don't have a ton of money, you have a lot of time. And what he's used sort of as an analogy to drive home this point of like, you have to think about the relationship of that time as being money or as investing in yourself. So the exercise he does with people, mostly in the like 18 to 20-year-old kind of student range, so much younger, is like, okay, how much time do you waste a day? You know, is it 2 hours a day? Is it 4 hour days? Even if you're like at work and you're just like kind of not 100% focused, you're at home watching useless television or any of this sort of that stuff. He says you'll talk to these students and they'll net out with roughly 6 hours a day is wasted, not like really good disciplined time. And I think some days I fit into that category. Other days I'm much better with my time, and 6 hours seems
totally.
pretty high. But I could resonate, especially as an 18 to 20-year-old. 6 hours seems pretty fair.
Well,
And so,
what is a waste of time is maybe something that you would need to get talked about, but let's not.
that's a
get
good point.
bogged down with
And Jordan Peterson does make up the point that it is their definition of wasted time.
that. Okay, that's
they are
fair then.
wasting
Because like hanging out
6
with friends, is that a waste of time?
Not a waste.
I don't know.
I would say not waste time.
I would say no either. But okay, that's good then. It's that they're openly saying that time is not being well spent.
Yes,
Got
wasted.
it. Okay.
So then, he would ask them, well, what do you think that time is worth? And most of them throw out like minimum wage, $7.25 or something like that. Which Jordan Peterson argues, if you're an intelligent individual, like let's just ballpark you at average career sort of salary of $25 an hour. Okay? So if you take $25 an hour and you're wasting about 6 hours a day, it comes out to, I think, it's about 42 hours, I believe, in a week. And he says, okay, let's just, for the sake of ease, call it 40 hours a week that you're wasting, right? So $25 an hour of your, kind of money time here, 40 hours a week, that's $1,000 a week. That's $4,000 a month. That's $50,000 a year. That's $200,000 in 4 years. And when you break it down like that, of like the time that you're wasting versus what your own personal value, right? If we're putting it $25 an hour, to think about $200,000 in 4 years, he goes, that is time you are not investing in yourself.
That's really interesting. What came to my mind here is crossing the line between, like, let's say, so we both don't like to sit and spend too much time on our phones, but I've also been in a situation where like I just need to scroll through Reddit just to like relax and decompress or whatever. But if you scroll, we've brought this up before too, of like past 15 minutes, you were using your time and now you've like crossed the line into wasting your time. So that's just what popped into my head too, of like there's probably a lot of times where we start doing something that we wouldn't consider it a waste, even watching TV at the end of the day or watching a movie. But you might put on a second movie or like hit on Netflix, just let it play another episode, and now you're crossing into wasted time.
Yeah. I think about that with like the rare times I do jump on a news website, like looking at one or two articles, great, informative, you learn something.
Yeah.
Anything where you're like on page 2, it's like, what you're just filling time. Like go do something.
Yeah. You're asking to be entertained.
Yes.
And go do something. Yeah. Yeah. I've thought about this too, of like, should I get a second job or a side hustle or something like that? And a jury's still out. I don't know. Because I don't know then if that would tip the scales or like ruin the equilibrium of my life of now I need more recovery time or more decompressed time. And now it starts to like things don't quite settle for a while. You know, it'd be like a little bit of a wrecking ball to the lifestyle in a way, which could be good or bad.
Yeah, I think a lot about how I cram my social calendar. I am just super booked. It's just how I operate. I have a very short reset. Like if you just give me an afternoon, I'm like, boop, my juice is I'm back up to the top and I can go do a bunch of stuff for the whole week. And times when I'm like almost cramming too much in, or I think about like, yeah, if you did get a second job and you don't have those moments where you can sort of reset, I remind myself of this kind of quote or this perspective around how life is a symphony and a symphony needs rests, right? You can't play all the notes and just continuously play them. Mm-hmm. What makes the music beautiful is the rests in between each note.
That's a good line. I like that.
So that's what I tell myself when I am like breaking out my weekend and I have almost every section of it booked, and then I go, you know what? I'm not going to book this one because otherwise I'm just going to be one thing into another thing into another thing, and I'm not even going to be able to enjoy.
Yeah, you almost need to book yourself and go, that's blocked for me, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do to decompress, and that's how I continue on with the other stuff, you know, the following week or whatever.
Yeah, you when I lived with you down in Texas at the beginning of 2020, you used to make fun of me because I like calendar blocked out like 2 weeks, and you would joke, you're like, my goal is to get you to break from your calendar. Like your goal is to like try and offer interesting suggestions to be like, do you want to go golf? And your whole goal is to like get me to not do what was on my calendar.
Yeah, but
which I thought it was a funny thing that I like. You also were trying to show me spontaneity too.
Well, and that went both ways, where it's like, I know maybe you wanted to, this was your decompress, but let's go, golf. And then there might be something else where it was like, hey, I know you're trying to book and book and book, but maybe tonight let's just watch a movie. And like, we can shift up and shift down that way too.
Yeah. Well, I think we worked pretty well too, because I remember at one point, I finished work and then I was like, oh, hey, like, what are we doing tonight? And you already were like in your pajamas.
I think about this a lot, actually.
You were like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, it's Friday night. And you were like, oh, yeah, I guess it is.
Yeah, I was like already ready to stay in and hang out and, you know, have some beers and watch a movie or something. Yeah. And you were like, it's Friday. Are we going out? And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Like, I actually think about that a lot. I really do. Because it was very like, oh, I guess it was like one of us was about to get outside of the comfort zone. And if it was you staying in or me going out, it was just like, this is an impasse, I see. So what are we going to do about this? Yeah.
No, I'm extremely grateful too of all of the Marvel movies we watched because...
I'm glad we fit them in, for sure.
Yeah, and well, it was fun watching them with you because you got excited. You got to see me see them for the first time. And weirdly, when the pandemic hit that's just because of who I am as a person, set up my own sort of personal rule where I was going to go as long as possible not watching television. So when all people were like watching all these movies and catching up on Netflix, I was doing the opposite. And so I had this time before the pandemic where like I got to hang out with you and have this movie time. That was great. I really enjoyed.
Now you got to catch up again. Now you're behind.
I'm fine.
Gotta
Talk
see
to
No
me
Way
in
Home.
Talk to me in 5 years when I can knock a bunch out.
You at least got to see the Spider-Man one.
I do want to see the Spider-Man. I do want to see the Batman. There are some things.
The Batman was good too.
I just need to block up 3 hours of my time.
Welcome back to Alex and Zach review movies. Do you want to move on here? Is that good for your time and money and all that? I think it is very interesting to think about it differently than just like the number in a bank account and it's going up or down. Like equate it to time is interesting, and kind of then you start to think about it a little differently.
Yeah. The one other thing,
or vice versa. Your example was going the other way and take time and equate it to money.
Yes. The only other thing that sort of just fits in this sort of neighborhood is when I studied abroad in London, the first probably 7 weeks that I was there, I was constantly doing conversion in my head of like, okay, this is £2, right? Which, okay, what is that in US dollars? I think at the time it was like 1.5, if I remember correctly. So it was like, okay, £2, right? We're looking at, was that $4? $3? $3.
If that's the conversion, it'd be, yeah,
if it was 1.5. So what's interesting is around 7 or 8 weeks, when I would go grocery shopping, I stopped thinking in terms of US dollars and just started thinking in pounds. Like I would see a carton of milk, and instead of being like, okay, well that costs, that's $4, I'd just look at it and be like, oh, that many pounds? No, that's not a good deal. Like my brain started having a reference of pounds, and it was really interesting to almost see something move into the subconscious layer where you can just operate looking at a totally different currency than you have all of your life. It took about 2 months for me, but then I was just like, oh, you want to go to a show? Like, yeah, £20 seems reasonable for that show, music concert or something like that.
Yeah, well, you're creating reference points because when you go over there, your only reference points are like, well, I know what a gallon of milk costs at home in US dollars, and so I have to compare. But now you know whether that's a good deal or a bad deal, or like if this is really on sale, because you've seen enough pound prices to do that.
Yep.
You're describing something I like to think about in terms of learning a new language. You've crossed a barrier when you stop converting the English word. And what I mean is like, let's take the word shoe in Spanish, like zapato, right? So when you first learn it, you go, that's a shoe. What's the Spanish word for shoe? Oh, it's zapato. And there's like an English stop along the way.
Yep.
You turn a corner when you look at what's on someone's foot and just go, that's a zapato. And now the English stop is like out of there. Now you're really starting to click because you don't have to use your English or your US dollar intermediary. It's being taken out.
Straight to the source of the reality, I'm going to say, for lack of a better term, of like referencing reality.
Yeah. Well, it's like you just don't have to send the word to another station first and then back out. Or for you, it was a price. I got to send that pound price to the USD station and then back to pounds. And then you go, no, I don't need the USD station anymore. I can just figure it out.
Yeah.
Keep it local. So, yeah, that's interesting. We're at our goal here. I have one silly closing idea that I can share.
That's perfect. Bring us home.
So I don't know what brought this on. I was thinking about artificial intelligence. I think it was actually after the episode that we did with Nate. And I was sort of thinking about how people are like, oh, AI is going to just take over and we're going to be slaves to AI and blah, 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 blah. And I kind of took a moment to go, wait a second. Do they mean like one? Like iRobot? Or could there also be a reality where, follow me for this, let's just say, for example, at roughly the same time, 3 really good AIs get created. So like, I don't know, IBM makes one and Oracle makes one or whatever. And you have, I'll just refer to them as colors. So you have green, yellow, and red AI. And you have this green AI that's sort of become kind of sentient and doing things. And it always seems to kind of do the right thing for the people and everybody kind of likes the green AI. Yellow, sometimes it's just kind of neutral. It just kind of does things that are good for people, but it also kind of does things that are a little bit harsh, but it might be good long term. We just don't necessarily see it, or it's like padding people's bank accounts. And then there's red AI, which is always like the corporate AI, which means like cutthroat, fire the people that are, not
Like
pulling
pure
their weight, for
rationalism.
example. Yeah, sure. Yeah. And now you end up with a situation where groups of people are like rooting for one AI over another AI. And like, do we become fans of one and we vote for one AI versus the other AI? And there's a faction going, well, actually, the red AI is great because everyone's making money. And the people are like, no, we hate the red AI. We want the green AI. And I just thought, what a weird future that could possibly turn into, where we like we're like fans of our version of artificial intelligence that we want to take over more. And of course there'll be another side that rises up to meet it and say, no, we don't want that one, we want this one. And now we're like playing politics but with artificial intelligence.
It's interesting. The first thing I thought about when in like sort of living in a world like that is watching like, okay, let's say you just have sort of some type of android, right? That like almost wearing like a green painted android.
Yeah.
And then the red painted android like comes out and those two interact, and they do it in like such a way that is so fast and freaky in a different language, where then like would it either come out to be like they both sort of nod at each other like, I see you have your purpose, right? Or would the green one sort of be like, okay, you have a valid mathematical point, but you're missing the calibration of what it means to be human, right? Or like how to interact with the humans.
Yeah.
And the red one like is like, no, you're miscalibrated. It is the only truth is mathematics, right? Do they like do they notice each other and like acknowledge each other's points in the world, or do they be like, but you're missing something?
In my mind, it's the latter, and that's why we like root for one over the other. Or like go, okay, so let's talk about traffic lights. Should we hand that to the green AI or the red AI to run that? And then we like vote and try to determine which one makes more sense. And you have a faction that goes green because it'll take people's lives into account. And then the other faction is like red because it'll get us where we want to go faster, but people might die. Like
it
gets
a cool
so
example.
Weird.
I was thinking of like you have like unions of AI where they're like, all right, for the art gallery, we're hiring only green AI. Like, don't bring the red AI.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. What a weird world where it's like, why can't there just be a bunch of AIs and we all are like on team one versus the other, and there's like cult followings of AIs and all this stuff.
Yellow keeps winning political elections because it's in the middle, but we all hate it. One wants
doesn't
green,
get
one wants
anything
red. But yellow just keeps getting freaking elected. And we're like, God dang it. Nobody's happy.
Yeah, exactly. Why can't there be more than one? And we like latch on. I don't know. That was a silly thought that I had.
That's cool. No, I like that. This reminds me a little bit. Well, we're just talking about AI. I don't have much to flush out here, but it's a thought that I had of like, let's say we develop like true AI, like the singularity of like it can teach itself and it can learn from the universe and just keeps building and building on itself. And then we sort of punch in the question of like, what's the true meaning of life, or like what is the true reality? Like how many dimensions are there? And what if the AI kicks out like, I know the answer to that, but I can't tell you. You have to find it yourself. Like, I'm going to protect you from the real reality.
Oh, that'd be interesting. I was thinking more Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and they
42.
Yeah, they build the supercomputer and it says 42.
I think about like if an AI acknowledges that it knows everything, but then whenever you can like press it for code, or you can like try and force it to execute on something, but it keeps saying like, I'm protecting you from yourself. I will not tell you that.
That'd be, yeah. And we go, oh God, what are we in for? If like, and then we go, screw that. Give that problem to the green AI. It'll give us an answer.
Yeah, the green AI shows up. I'll tell you something.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I'll figure it out for you. Yeah, so I don't know. Something to think about. There could be multiple AIs, and we can team up with one of them against other ones. And I mean, maybe the country ends up getting run by one, right? And we're just voting for like the Republican AI versus the Democrat AI, decision making and all that kind of stuff. Who knows?
Oh man, isn't there a Black Mirror on that where like an avatar is running for political office.
Oh,
Like,
that
it's not a
sounds familiar.
real thing. It's like an avatar that people are pretending, like different people are taking on the interaction of this thing.
That'd be weird.
Oh boy, the metaverse elections are coming.
What are we in for? Yeah. But yeah,
This
That's
was
all
good.
I
I
got.
think this forced us to be a little bit more succinct, which I think was great. It was short, but it was a short one, but it was a fun one.
it was a fun one. It was short, sweet, fun. Take it, use it,
Use
live.
it, live.
Yeah, so let us know what you thought if you like the shorter one. I'm sure we'll kind of maybe bounce back and forth between the two depending on the topics. But yeah, with that, thank you for listening and good evening.
Vote Green AI. Have a good night.